I took the Watchman job because the quarry was supposed to be empty at night. That was the whole appeal. No customers, no co-workers, no phones ringing every 5 minutes, no manager breathing down my neck. Just me, a security truck, a flashlight, a thermos of coffee, and a few miles of private road looping around a limestone pit in the middle of rural Pennsylvania. After the year I'd had, that sounded perfect. I had been laid off from a warehouse job in Harrisburg, moved back in with my older brother, and spent 3 months applying for work while pretending not to hear the way his wife sighed whenever I opened the fridge. I didn't blame her. I was 31, broke, and sleeping in a basement beside Christmas decorations and a broken treadmill. So when I saw the listing, I applied immediately. Night Watchman needed Black Hollow Limestone Quarry, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. No experience required, must be reliable, must follow site rules exactly. That last line should have made me hesitate. Must follow site rules exactly. But every workplace has rules. Wear a hard hat. Stay out of restricted areas. Don't touch equipment. Log visitors. Call emergency services if something catches fire. Keep the gate locked. Normal rules. That was what I thought. Black Hollow Quarry sat about 40 minutes outside the nearest real town, down a road that wound through wooded hills, cornfields, old farmhouses, and stretches of forest so thick they blocked out the sky. The quarry itself was hidden until you were almost on top of it. 1 minute, I was driving through trees. The next, the land opened into a massive wound. The pit was enormous. Terraced limestone walls dropped in pale gray shelves toward a dark pool at the bottom. Conveyor belts crossed the site like rusted black ribs. There were crushers, silos, maintenance sheds, fuel tanks, old blast shelters, a scale house near the entrance, and abandoned lime kilns half swallowed by brush along the eastern ridge. Even in daylight, the place felt wrong. Not haunted, not yet, just too quiet for something that had clearly spent decades being loud. The kind of quiet that comes after blasting, grinding, drilling, hauling, breaking, crushing. A quiet that feels earned. I parked outside a small office trailer near the main gate. A sign beside it read, "Black Hollow Limestone, authorized personnel, only hard hats required beyond this point." A man was waiting on the trailer steps. He looked about 60, broad-shouldered, with a gray beard, sun-browned skin, and one milky eye that didn't move with the other. He wore a yellow hard hat, a faded company jacket, and steel-toed boots dusted white with lime. "You Marcus Bell?" he asked. "That's me." "Ray Garrison." He didn't shake my hand. He looked me over the way mechanics look at used cars. "You ever work a quarry?" "No." "Security?" "Warehouse night shift." "Ever carry a radio?" "Yes." "Ever been alone in a place big enough to make you stupid?" I almost laughed. He didn't. "No," I said. Ray nodded once, like that answer was acceptable. "Come in." The office trailer smelled like coffee, old paperwork, wet boots, and limestone dust. Everything had a pale coating on it. Desk, chairs, file cabinets, radio base station, window blinds. Even the microwave looked like it had been lightly floured. A map of the quarry was pinned to the wall. Ray tapped it with 2 fingers. "Your route is simple. Start at the main office. Drive the lower loop. Check the fuel tanks, crusher building, conveyor junction, south gate, maintenance shed, west access road, upper bench, old kilns, then back to the office. Once every 2 hours." He traced the route in red marker. "Do not go below the second bench at night. Do not approach the water. Do not enter any equipment unless there's a fire. Do not try to be useful. Useful night watchmen get killed. I looked at him. By accidents? Sometimes. Not comforting. He handed me a clipboard. Log everything, even if it seems stupid, especially if it seems stupid. I signed some paperwork, filled out tax forms, and watched him check the clock every few minutes. The sun was already low outside, turning the quarry walls orange. Ray gave me a hard hat, reflective vest, keys, a radio, and the Watchman truck. The truck was an old white pickup with a light bar on top, a cracked dashboard, mud tires, and black hollow security printed on both doors. It smelled like vinyl, dust, and stale cigarettes. A shotgun rack sat behind the seat, empty. "Do I get a weapon?" I asked. Ray looked at me. "No, just asking. If you see something out here that a gun would help with, call me. If you see something a gun won't help with, don't waste time reaching for one." I stared at him, waiting for the joke. There wasn't one. We stepped outside. The quarry was turning blue with evening. Shadows filled the pit. The dark water at the bottom reflected the sky like a black mirror. Somewhere in the distance, a crow called once, then went silent. Ray looked toward the pit. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out a laminated sheet. Of course it was laminated. If an old man at an isolated job site ever hands you laminated rules, get back in your car and leave. I'm serious. Don't ask questions. Don't laugh. Don't convince yourself you need the money. Leave. Ray held the sheet out. Read this before full dark. I took it. At the top, written in black marker, were the words, "Black Hollow Night, rules for the Watchman do not alter, do not ignore, do not leave," blank lines in the log. There were 18 rules. Rule 1, main gate locks at 6:15 p.m. exactly. If anyone arrives after that, speak through the gate only. Rule 2, the quarry has 3 working trucks left on site overnight. If you count 4, return to the office and lock the door. Rule 3, do not answer the scale house bell after midnight. Rule 4, if the crusher starts by itself, cut power from the outside panel and do not look into the hopper. Rule 5, never enter the old lime kilns if they feel warm. Rule 6, if you see white footprints leading toward the office, stay in your truck until they fade. Rule 7, do not follow lantern lights on the upper bench road. Rule 8, if the radio says all clear in your voice, remove the battery and place it on the passenger seat. Rule 9, if you hear drilling beneath you, leave the area immediately. Rule 10, the pit water should be black at night. If it reflects daylight, do not look directly at it. Rule 11, if a man with lime burns asks for water, tell him the wash station is closed. Rule 12, the blasting siren may sound once during temperature drops. If it sounds 3 times, lie flat and cover your ears until the 4th. Rule 13, if the elevator cage rises from the old shaft, do not get inside, even if someone is calling from below. Rule 14, if the scale weighs your truck as 0, turn off the engine and wait 10 minutes before moving. Rule 15, at 2:40 a.m., do not look toward the pit. Rule 16, if you see your own patrol truck on the upper bench, drive to the office without using your mirrors. Rule 17, do not open the office door for anyone wearing a hard hat with no company logo. Rule 18, if Ray calls and tells you to leave before sunrise, ask him what happened at shaft 6. If he says, cave in, hang up. I read the list. Then I read it again. When I looked up, Ray was watching me carefully. I said, "This is a joke, right?" "No." Is this some kind of hazing thing? No. Then what is this? Rules. For what? For Black Hollow after dark. I laughed once. Not because it was funny, because the alternative was believing him. Ray did not react. I tapped the sheet. The radio might use my voice? Yes. The patrol truck might show up somewhere else? Yes. A man with lime burns might ask me for water? If he does, don't give him any. That's insane. Ray leaned closer. His good eye was very blue. Insane is giving water to something that has been thirsty since 1936. The wind moved across the quarry. A fine layer of white dust lifted from the ground and swirled around our boots. I swallowed. What happened in 1936? Ray folded his arms. Officially, nothing worth remembering. And unofficially? He looked toward the far ridge, where the old lime kilns stood like dark brick mouths against the trees. Black Hollow used to have underground shafts before they opened the pit. Shaft 6 collapsed during a night shift. 12 men below, 4 men above. Records say everyone below died quick. But they didn't? Ray's jaw tightened. No. I waited. He didn't continue. Why not just close the place? I asked. Because the day shift is safe enough, the company makes money, and land remembers whether people admit it or not. That doesn't answer anything. It answers enough for a first night. He pointed to the laminated sheet. You follow those, you get paid Friday. And if I don't? He looked past me toward the darkening pit. Then the quarry gets another rule. That was the first moment I seriously thought about quitting. My car was parked 10 feet away. The road out was clear. The gate was still open. I could have handed him the keys, said no thanks, driven back to my brother's basement, and let his wife sigh at the fridge for another week. Instead, I folded the rule sheet and put it in my jacket pocket. Because I needed money, because I was tired of failing, because I still believed the worst thing that could happen at a quarry was falling into a hole. Ray checked his watch. 6:12 p.m. Gate locks in 3 minutes. What about you? I leave before it locks. That's convenient. No, he said. It's necessary. He walked to his pickup, then paused. One more thing. Not on the sheet? Not on the sheet. Of course. If you hear singing from the pit, don't write the lyrics down. Why? Ray opened his truck door. Because then it knows you heard every word. He got in, started the engine, and drove out through the main gate. I watched his taillights disappear down the access road. At exactly 6:15, I locked the gate. The chain was thick and heavy. The padlock snapped shut with a solid click. That sound made the whole place feel different. Like I hadn't locked other people out. Like I had locked myself in. I went back to the office trailer, made coffee, and tried to settle into the shift. The first hour was normal. I checked the camera feeds. 3 working trucks parked near maintenance, fuel tanks secure, crusher building dark, conveyor belt still, south gate locked, wind light from the west, temperature dropping. I wrote everything in the log. 6:30 p.m., site secure, no unusual activity. Then I stopped and stared at the sentence. No unusual activity. It felt arrogant. I crossed out no unusual activity and wrote no activity observed. That felt safer. At 7:05, I did my first patrol. The Watchman truck rattled over gravel roads dusted white with crushed limestone. My headlights swept across massive tires, rusted conveyors, piles of stone, warning signs, chain link fences, and cliffs of pale rock descending into darkness. The quarry was louder than I expected. Not machinery, not people. Small sounds, gravel shifting under the truck, metal cooling and ticking, wind pushing through empty conveyor frames, water dripping somewhere below. The lower loop took me past the crusher building first. It was a tall steel structure with catwalks, ladders, chutes, and a massive hopper where rock had once been dumped to be broken down. In daylight, it probably looked industrial. At night, it looked like a gallows built for machines. Everything was off. Good. I checked the outside panel. Locked. Then the fuel tanks. No leaks. Maintenance shed. Locked. 3 working trucks. I counted carefully. 1 yellow haul truck. 2 yellow haul truck. 3 yellow haul truck. Only 3. Good. At the south gate, I got out to check the chain. A cold wind came through the trees. Somewhere beyond the fence, branches cracked under something heavy. I shone my flashlight into the woods. Nothing. Then the radio on my belt crackled. Ray's voice came through. "Watchman, status?" I unclipped it. "South gate secure." A pause. Then Ray said, "Copy. Stay out of the kilns tonight." I looked toward the eastern ridge. I thought I had to check them. Not tonight. That bothered me. "Why?" The radio hissed. Then Ray said, "Because they're warm." Static. I stared at the radio. "How do you know that?" No response. "Ray?" Static. Then my own voice came through the radio. "South gate secure. Rule 8. If the radio says all clear in your voice, remove the battery and place it on the passenger seat." It hadn't said all clear. It had repeated me. Was that close enough? The radio hissed again. My voice whispered, "All clear." I ripped the battery off the back so fast I dropped it in the gravel. The radio went dead. I picked up the battery, got back in the truck, and placed it on the passenger seat. For the rest of the patrol, I drove in silence. At 7:52, I reached the upper bench road. It curved along the quarry wall above the pit, protected by low berms and warning signs. Below, the water at the bottom of the quarry was fully dark now. Black, exactly like Rule 10 said it should be. I did not look at it for long. The old kilns stood at the far end of the upper road, half hidden in brush. 3 brick structures built into the hillside, arched openings facing the quarry like mouths. Their chimneys rose broken and black against the last blue light in the sky. I stopped the truck 50 yards away. Ray had said, "Stay out." The rule said never enter if warm. I didn't need to know if they were warm if I didn't approach them. That was my logic. It was good logic. Then I saw lantern lights, 2 of them. Small yellow flames moving along the ridge beyond the kilns. Rule 7. Do not follow lantern lights on the upper bench road. I put the truck in reverse. The lantern stopped. Then one swung slowly toward me. Not moved. Swung. Like someone had lifted it. A voice called from the darkness. "Shift ain't done." I froze. It sounded like an old man. Another voice answered from the other lantern. "Boss says keep burning." Then laughter, weak, tired, far away. The truck's headlights flickered. The lanterns began moving toward the kiln openings. I drove away. I did not look in the mirror. At 8:10, I got back to the office and wrote in the log, 7:52 p.m. Lantern lights observed near old kilns, did not follow, did not approach. The pen scratched over the paper. For a moment, the ink looked white instead of black. Then normal. I made more coffee. My hands were shaking now. I tried calling Ray from the office phone. No dial tone. I tried my cell. No service. Of course. At 8:34, The scale house bell rang. The scale house sat near the main gate, used during the day to weigh loaded trucks. It had a small office, platform scale, and an old service bell mounted outside for drivers. The bell rang once, clear, metallic. I looked at the rules. Rule 3 said, "Do not answer the scale house bell after midnight." It was only 8:34, so technically I could answer it. I hated that word. Technically. I looked through the office window toward the scale house. It was dark. The main gate beyond it was locked. The bell rang again. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped outside. The air smelled sharply of limestone dust. I walked halfway to the scale house before stopping. There was a truck on the scale, not one of ours. An old dump truck, black cab, rounded hood, rusty bed, something from the 1940s or 50s. No headlights, no driver visible. I had not heard it enter. The gate was still locked. The bell mounted outside the scale house rang a third time. No one touched it. I backed away. The dump truck's driver's side door opened. A man climbed out. He wore work pants, suspenders, a long-sleeved shirt, and a hard hat with no logo. Rule 17. Do not open the office door for anyone wearing a hard hat with no company logo. I was not in the office, but I was outside, which suddenly felt worse. The man stood beside the truck and looked at me. His face was coated in white dust. Not lightly, completely. It filled the lines around his eyes. It clung to his lips. It made him look like a statue that had learned to walk. "Scale's wrong," he called. His voice was dry and cracked. I said nothing. He pointed to the scale house window. Inside, the old digital display flickered on. It read, £0 Rule 14. If the scale weighs your truck as 0, turn off the engine and wait 10 minutes before moving. Not my truck. His truck. Again, a gap. The man coughed. A cloud of white dust came from his mouth. "Scale says I'm empty." I backed toward the office. He took one step after me. "Do I look empty?" No, he did not. The truck bed behind him was full of pale shapes. At first, I thought they were limestone chunks. Then one moved. A hand slid down the inside of the truck bed. White dust fell from its fingers. I ran. The man shouted after me, "Weigh us proper!" I reached the office, got inside, and slammed the door. Locked it. Rule 17 had said not to open the door for him. I didn't intend to. The man crossed the lot slowly. The bell rang behind him. Again, again, again. He stopped outside the office door and knocked. Tap, tap, tap. White dust sifted from his knuckles onto the step. "Watchman," he said, "we need water." Rule 11, if a man with lime burns asks for water, tell him the wash station is closed. I looked at his face through the door window. The white dust shifted. Underneath, his skin was raw. Red, burned, cracking. His lips split when he spoke. "Water." My throat tightened. He looked like he was in agony. He probably was. That was why the rule was hard. "The wash station is closed," I said. The man lowered his head. Behind him, more figures climbed down from the dump truck. Men in old work clothes, white with dust, burned, bent, slow. "The wash station is closed," I repeated. The man looked up. His eyes were pale gray. "Then what do we drink?" I did not answer. His burned mouth widened. Not a smile. Not exactly. "Lime eats wet first," he whispered. Then every figure outside turned toward the water at the bottom of the quarry. The black pit water rippled, though no wind touched it. The men walked away from the office in a line, back toward the scale, back toward the old truck. They climbed into the bed one by one. The driver got in last. The truck door shut. The scale display flickered, 0 pounds. Then the truck vanished. Not drove away, vanished. The bell stopped ringing. I sat behind the desk until my legs stopped shaking. At 9:20, I wrote everything in the log. I almost left parts out. The burned men, the truck bed, the water question. Then I remembered the top of the rule sheet. Do not leave blank lines in the log. So I wrote all of it. When I finished, the office lights flickered once. The logbook page turned by itself. On the next line, in handwriting that was not mine, someone had written, "Good." At 10:03, the crusher started. The office trailer shook with the sound. A deep metallic roar rolled across the quarry as motors spun up, belts jerked, and old steel came alive in the dark. I jumped from the chair. Rule 4. If the crusher starts by itself, cut power from the outside panel and do not look into the hopper. I grabbed the keys and flashlight. Then I stopped. The radio battery was still on the passenger seat of the truck. The radio itself was dead on my belt. No communication. No help. Just me. I drove to the crusher building with the truck's light bar flashing, though there was no one alive to warn. The crusher screamed like a giant chewing stone. Belts moved overhead. Dust poured from chutes. The outside power panel was on the far side of the structure, beside a narrow metal staircase. I parked facing away from the hopper. That mattered. I kept my eyes low. The hopper was above me, a huge black opening where rock went in. Do not look into it. The ground vibrated under my boots. I reached the power panel. Locked, of course. My keys shook in my hand. The crusher roared louder. Inside the hopper, something hit metal. Bang, then again. Bang. Then a voice shouted from above. "Help!" I froze. "Help! I fell in!" "No, no." The voice was young, male, terrified. "Please, shut it off!" I forced the key into the panel lock. Wrong key. Tried another. Wrong. The voice screamed. The crusher belts clattered. "Please, it's pulling me down!" I found the right key, opened the panel. Inside was a red emergency cutoff. The voice above me screamed, "Look at me! I need you to see where I am!" I did not look. I slammed the cutoff. The crusher died. Not slowly. Instantly. Silence crashed down. My ears rang. Dust drifted through my flashlight beam. The voice in the hopper whispered, now much closer. "You should have looked." Then something wet dropped onto the ground beside my boot. I did not look at that either. I closed the panel and walked back to the truck without raising my eyes. Only once I was inside with the doors locked did I glance through the windshield. Something stood on the catwalk above the crusher. Not a man, a shape made of pale dust and crushed stone, bent wrong, one long arm hanging into the hopper. It lifted its head toward me. Where its face should have been was a dark, round hole, like an open mouth or a tunnel. I drove back to the office. At 11:11, I logged the crusher incident. The page turned by itself again after I finished. This time, the other handwriting wrote, "Do not trust the quiet after machines." I stopped drinking coffee after that. At 11:47, I counted the trucks from the office window. 1, 2, 3, still 3. At 11:59, I checked the rule sheet again and underlined Rule 3 with my finger. Do not answer the scale house bell after midnight. At exactly 12 o'clock, the scale house bell rang. Once, then again, then again. I sat behind the desk and did not move. The bell kept ringing. It rang for almost 10 minutes. Then it stopped. A moment later, something knocked on the office door. Tap, tap, tap. I looked through the window. No one was there. The knock came again, lower this time, from near the bottom of the door. Tap, tap, tap. White dust began blowing under the gap. It formed footprints on the office floor. Small ones, bare feet. Rule 6. If you see white footprints leading toward the office, stay in your truck until they fade. The footprints were already inside the office, leading from the door toward the desk. Another gap. The office was no longer safe. I grabbed the logbook, rule sheet, keys, and the dead radio, then climbed out the rear window because I was not opening that door. I ran to the patrol truck. The white footprints continued appearing inside the office, visible through the window now, step by step, toward the chair where I had been sitting. I locked myself in the truck and waited. The office lights flickered. The chair behind the desk slowly turned toward the door. The footprints reached it, stopped, then faded one by one. Only when the last print disappeared did I breathe. At 12:36, I started the truck. The scale house bell rang once. I ignored it. At 1:15, I began the next patrol because staying still felt worse. The quarry roads looked different after midnight, narrower. The rock walls seemed higher. My headlights reached less far than before. At the maintenance area, I counted the trucks again. 1, 2, 3. Then I saw headlights on the upper bench, a fourth truck, moving slowly along the road near the old kilns. Rule 2. The quarry has 3 working trucks left on site overnight. If you count 4, return to the office and lock the door. I did not continue patrol. I turned around and headed straight back to the office. As I drove, the fourth truck's headlights followed along the upper road above me. Parallel, keeping pace, no engine sound, no dust, just lights. When I reached the office, I locked the door and stayed inside. The fourth truck stopped outside. I could see its lights through the blinds. They shut off. Then the office phone rang. I stared at it. It rang again. No caller ID. I picked up because Ray might be calling. That was my excuse. "Black Hollow office," I said, static. Then Ray's voice. "Marcus? Ray, you need to leave." My skin went cold. Rule 18. If Ray calls and tells you to leave before sunrise, ask him what happened at shaft 6. If he says cave in, hang up. I swallowed. "What happened at shaft 6? Silence. Then Ray said, "Cave in." I hung up. The phone rang again immediately. I did not answer. The blinds over the office window lifted by themselves. Outside, Ray stood in the parking lot. No truck, no headlights, just Ray. He wore his yellow hard hat. No company logo. Rule 17. Do not open the office door for anyone wearing a hard hat with no company logo. His real hard hat had a Black Hollow logo. This one was blank. He smiled through the glass, then lifted one hand and pointed toward the quarry pit. The phone stopped ringing. From outside, faintly, came singing. Men's voices, low, tired, echoing up from the bottom of the pit. I could not make out the words. I remembered Ray's extra warning. If you hear singing from the pit, don't write the lyrics down. I backed away from the window. The singing grew louder. The office logbook opened on the desk. The pen rolled toward it. One line wrote itself across the page. "We all go down together." The fake Ray outside smiled wider. The quarry blasting siren sounded. Once, I froze. A second blast followed, then a third. Rule 12. If the blasting siren sounds 3 times, lie flat and cover your ears until the 4th. I dropped to the floor, covered my ears. The entire quarry went silent. The singing stopped. The fake Ray stopped smiling. For one awful second, nothing happened. Then the ground beneath the office trailer began to shake. Not like an earthquake, like something huge under the quarry had rolled over in its sleep. From somewhere below the office floor came the sound of drilling. Rule 9. If you hear drilling beneath you, leave the area immediately. But Rule 12 told me to lie flat until the 4th siren. The drilling grew louder, closer. The office floor vibrated against my chest. The fake ray outside tapped on the window. Tap, tap, tap. The 4th siren did not come. The drilling punched up through the floorboards beneath the desk. A spiral bit, black with oil and white dust, burst into the office and spun wildly, chewing through wood, paper, air. I rolled away just as it tore through the chair. Then the 4th siren finally sounded. I scrambled up, grabbed the logbook and rules, and ran out the rear window again. Behind me, the office collapsed inward around the drill bit. Not fully, just enough that the trailer bent like a crushed can. I reached the patrol truck, started it, threw it in reverse, and stopped. At the edge of my headlights stood my own patrol truck, same white body, same cracked windshield, same black hollow security on the doors, same light bar, same license plate. It sat facing me from the upper bench road entrance. Rule 16. If you see your own patrol truck on the upper bench, drive to the office without using your mirrors. But I was already at the office, and the office was collapsing. The duplicate truck flashed its headlights once, then its driver door opened. A man stepped out wearing my reflective vest, my hard hat, my face. He lifted one hand and pointed down toward the pit. The water at the bottom of Black Hollow was no longer black. It reflected daylight, bright golden morning. And in that impossible daylight, I saw 12 men standing on the surface of the water, looking up at me, all wearing blank hard hats, all singing the same line the logbook had written. We all go down together. Behind me, the real quarry siren began to sound again. Once, twice, and before the third blast came, the duplicate version of me smiled and climbed into my truck. The duplicate version of me smiled and climbed into my truck. Not the other truck, not the impossible copy parked near the upper bench road. Mine, the real patrol truck, the one I was sitting in. I know that sounds impossible. It was impossible. I was in the driver's seat with both hands on the wheel, foot hovering over the brake, staring through the windshield at the duplicate truck blocking the road. Then the other me opened my passenger door. I heard the latch click. I felt the cab shift under his weight. Cold air rushed in, and suddenly he was sitting beside me. My face, my hard hat, my reflective vest, my tired eyes, my cracked lips, my hands. He even had the little scar across his left knuckle from when I sliced it open on a warehouse pallet years before. The only difference was the dust. He was covered in limestone dust from his boots to his hair, the same powder white coating I had seen on the burned men from the old dump truck. The blasting siren wailed again, once, then twice. The duplicate turned his head toward me. "Third one's coming," he said. He used my voice. Not close to my voice exactly. The siren screamed a third time. Rule 12 hit me like a physical shove. If the blasting siren sounds 3 times, lie flat and cover your ears until the 4th. I threw myself sideways as much as I could inside the cab, curling down across the seats and covering my ears with both hands. The other me laughed. "Good boy." Then the world shook. Not an explosion, not exactly, The entire quarry seemed to inhale. Stone groaned from every direction. The office trailer behind me creaked and buckled around the drill bit that had come up through its floor. The truck rocked on its suspension. Dust fell from the ceiling of the cab, though there shouldn't have been any dust up there. The duplicate leaned over me. "You know what the fourth blast means?" I kept my hands over my ears. I did not answer. "You think it means safe," he whispered. The ground beneath the truck shifted. Deep below, something knocked. Once, then again, a sound like a giant fist striking stone. The duplicate kept whispering, "It means they found you." The fourth siren finally sounded. Long, low, different from the first three. I sat up fast and slammed my shoulder into the duplicate. He was heavier than me, cold, solid. For 1 second we struggled in the cab, my hands on his vest, his fingers digging into my wrist. His skin felt dry and chalky. Limestone dust smeared across my sleeve. He smiled into my face. "You looked at the water," he said. I shoved him again. He didn't move. "You saw daylight." I grabbed the dead radio from my belt and hit him in the side of the head with it. His skull cracked. Not bone, stone. A thin fracture split across his temple, white dust spilling out. His smile vanished. I threw myself backward, kicked open the driver's door, and fell out of the truck onto the gravel. The duplicate grabbed for me and caught the edge of my jacket, but I slipped free, leaving the fabric torn in his hand. I hit the ground hard enough to knock the breath out of myself. Behind me, my own voice said calmly, "Don't use the mirrors." I rolled away and scrambled to my feet. The duplicate was still inside my truck. The other patrol truck remained in front of me, headlights off, empty now. The office trailer behind me was half collapsed, the drill bit still rotating slowly through its floor. The blinds hung crooked. The door was open. White footprints covered the steps. The pit water below reflected daylight. Bright, impossible daylight. I felt it pulling at my eyes. I forced myself to look at the ground. Rule 10. The pit water should be black at night. If it reflects daylight, do not look directly at it. I had already looked once. I wasn't doing it again. The duplicate started my truck. The engine turned over with a familiar cough. I ran. Not toward the office. The office was ruined. Not toward the gate. The gate was locked, and the road to it passed too close to the scale house. I ran toward the maintenance shed. It was the nearest building that still looked solid. Behind me, my truck rolled forward, slow, crunching over gravel. The duplicate drove with the headlights off. I heard the tires. That was worse than seeing it. I reached the maintenance shed and slammed into the door. Locked, of course. I fumbled with the keys. The truck rolled closer. No engine revving, no horn, just tires on gravel. I found the key, shoved it into the lock, and got inside. The shed was pitch black and smelled like oil, rubber, welding dust, and old rainwater. I shut the door, locked it, then backed away until I hit a metal shelf. My truck stopped outside. The engine idled. I heard the duplicate get out. Boots on gravel. One step, then another. Then a soft knock on the door. Tap, tap, tap. "Marcus," my voice said. I clenched my jaw. "Open up." I said nothing. "You're off route. Nothing. You need to log this." The logbook was still in my hand. I hadn't even realized I'd grabbed it when I ran from the office. The duplicate chuckled. "That book isn't yours." I looked down. The logbook's cover was dusted white. I brushed it off with my sleeve. The most recent line, the one written by something else, was still there. We all go down together. Under it, a new line appeared slowly, one word at a time. The Watchman must record the shift. I flipped the book shut. Outside, the duplicate whispered, "No blank lines." I looked around the maintenance shed for a way out. There was a workbench, tool racks, oil drums, a wall of spare parts, welding masks, hanging chains, lockers, and a small dirty window near the ceiling. No back door. Great. The knock came again. Tap, tap, tap. Then the duplicate said, "Ray left things out." That got my attention. He always does. I stayed silent. Want to know what happened at shaft 6? No. Yes. No. The shed door handle rattled. I can tell you. I backed farther into the shed. The logbook opened in my hands by itself. A fresh line wrote, "Do not learn from yourself." I slammed it shut again. The duplicate outside laughed. Too late. Then he walked away. I heard him get back into my truck. The engine revved once, then drove off. I waited in the maintenance shed until I could no longer hear it. Only then did I turn on my flashlight. The beam shook in my hand. The shed was bigger than I'd thought. The back half extended into a tool bay where broken equipment parts were stacked under tarps. A cracked safety poster hung on the wall. "Report all near misses." Someone had written beneath it in black marker, "Near misses, report you back." I looked away. On the workbench was an old metal lunchbox, not hidden, placed, like it had been waiting for me. The name Ray Garrison was scratched into the lid. I hesitated, then opened it. Inside were 3 things: a folded map, a small brass key, and a Polaroid photograph. The photograph showed 5 men standing outside the old lime kilns. It looked decades old. The edges were yellowed. All 5 men wore hard hats. 4 had company logos. 1 did not. Ray stood at the far left, younger, both eyes clear. Beside him was another man I recognized immediately, the burned man from the scale house, the one who had asked for water. On the back of the photo, someone had written, "Night Crew, 1974. Do not give Hollis water." Hollis, that was his name. I set the photo down and unfolded the map. It wasn't the modern Quarry map from the office. This one was older. It showed underground shafts before the pit expanded. Shaft 1, Shaft 2, Shaft 3, Shaft 4, Shaft 5, Shaft 6. The last one was circled in red. A handwritten note beside it read, "Not a cave-in. They dug up." My mouth went dry. They dug up. Not down. Up. There was another note at the bottom. If the Watchman sees his own truck, he has been weighed. If he has been weighed, the Quarry has a claim. Claim can be disputed at Shaft 6 before 2:40. I checked my watch. 1:43 a.m., less than an hour. The brass key had a tag. Shaft 6, Lift House. I nearly laughed. Of course, the one place every part of me didn't want to go was apparently the only place I had left. The radio on my belt crackled. It had no battery. Still, it crackled. Ray's real voice came through, faint and rough. "Marcus," I froze. "Marcus, if you found the lunchbox, listen." I lifted the radio slowly. "Ray, don't say my name too much." I closed my mouth. Static hissed. His voice returned. "If you saw yourself, don't drive anything you can see in reflection. No mirrors, no windows, no water. Keep your eyes on dust, rock, or your own boots." The radio popped, then continued. "The Quarry weighs what it can reflect. That's how it decides what belongs below." I thought of the scale reading 0, the truck full of men, the pit water reflecting daylight, the duplicate wearing my face. "What happened at Shaft 6? I whispered. The radio went silent. Then Ray said, "Good, you asked right." The shed door banged once, not from outside, from inside. A locker near the workbench shook. Ray's voice sharpened. "Get out of the shed." The locker banged again, the metal door dented outward. "There's a service hatch under the workbench," Ray said. "Use the brass key. Don't take the road." The locker door split. White dust poured through the crack. I dropped to my knees and searched under the workbench. There was a square hatch in the floor, half hidden beneath an old rubber mat. The brass key fit. The hatch opened to darkness and a narrow ladder. The locker door burst open behind me. Something crawled out. I did not wait to see it. I climbed down. The hatch slammed shut above me. Darkness swallowed me. For 10 seconds, I descended blind, boots scraping metal rungs, one hand clutching the logbook under my arm. The air grew colder and wetter the lower I went. The smell changed from oil and dust to stone, groundwater, rust, and something stale beneath it. My foot finally hit concrete. I turned on my flashlight. I stood in an old service tunnel. Low ceiling, limestone walls, rusty pipes, a narrow rail track embedded in the floor. The tunnel sloped gently downward. Of course it did. Everything at Black Hollow led down. The radio crackled again. Ray said, "Follow the rail line until it splits. Left goes to the pump room. Right goes to shaft 6. Take right." I did not answer. "Good," Ray said, like he knew I had wanted to. "Keep quiet unless the rules require otherwise." I started walking. Every step echoed. The ceiling dripped. Lime dust coated the tunnel walls in pale streaks. Old warning signs hung crooked on rusted nails. No open flames. Unstable roof. Respirators required. Report gas pockets. The rail line was narrow, probably used for old mining carts. My flashlight beam caught an overturned cart halfway down the tunnel. Its metal body was crushed inward, like something huge had stepped on it. I kept walking. Behind me, faintly, I heard singing from above. Men's voices from the pit, low, tired. We all go down together. I did not write it. At the rail split, I took right. The tunnel narrowed. The air grew warmer. That seemed bad. Soon I saw light ahead. Yellow, flickering, lantern light. Rule 7 said, "Do not follow lantern lights on the upper bench road." This was not the upper bench road, but by then, I had learned how the quarry treated technicalities. I stopped. The lantern light bobbed in the tunnel ahead. A man's voice called, "Ray?" I stayed silent. The light moved closer. "Ray, that you?" I stepped back. The man came into view. He wore an old work shirt, suspenders, a hard hat with the Black Hollow logo, and a headlamp that wasn't turned on. He held a lantern in one hand. His face was normal, except for the dust in his eyelashes and the dark line of dried blood under his nose. He looked past me. "You ain't Ray." I said nothing. He lifted the lantern. "Who sent you down?" Still nothing. His eyes moved to the logbook under my arm. Then his expression changed. "Watchman." The tunnel behind him filled with faint movement. Other men stepped into view. 6, 7, more, all coated in white dust, all wearing old work clothes. The man with the lantern looked sad. "You shouldn't be down here." I wanted to ask if he was one of the 12. I didn't. He pointed behind me. "Shaft's that way." I didn't move. Rule 7. Do not follow lantern lights. He seemed to understand. Smart man, or good imitation. He placed the lantern on the ground and stepped away from it. "Don't follow the light," he said. "Follow the rail." Then he and the others stepped back into the dark. The lantern remained. I passed it without touching it. As I did, the flame turned blue. A whisper came from inside it. Almost weighed, I kept going. The tunnel ended at a metal door marked Shaft 6. Lift house authorized personnel only. The brass key worked. Beyond the door was a round chamber built around an old vertical shaft. The shaft itself was sealed by a rusted elevator cage sitting level with the floor. Thick cables ran upward into darkness. A control panel stood beside it, dead and coated with dust. The cage was old, really old. Steel bars, sliding gate, wooden floor. Inside it sat a hard hat. No company logo. Rule 13. If the elevator cage rises from the old shaft, do not get inside, even if someone is calling from below. The cage was already there, not rising. Again, gap. I stepped toward the control panel. The logbook grew heavy under my arm. I opened it on the panel and found a new line waiting. Dispute claim before 2:40. Record what was not a cave-in. How? I whispered. The chamber answered, not with a voice, with the elevator cage. It dropped, fast. The cable screamed as the cage plunged into the shaft below, vanishing into darkness. I stumbled back. A few seconds later, far below, metal crashed. Then silence. Then the cage began to rise, slow, grinding. The old cable strained. From below came voices. Help! Ray! Pull us up! Don't leave us! I backed away. Rule 13. Do not get inside, even if someone is calling from below. The cage rose into view. Inside were men, 12 of them, packed shoulder to shoulder, white with limestone dust. Eyes red, mouths cracked, hands gripping the bars. The elevator stopped level with the floor. The gate slid open. None of them stepped out. One man at the front looked at me. He had a crushed hand and a beard full of white dust. You the Watchman? I nodded before I could stop myself. The men groaned. The bearded man looked almost pitying. Don't answer with your body down here. It counts. I went still. He pointed at the logbook. You came to dispute. I did not nod this time. I opened the book and held it up. The bearded man read the line. Then he laughed without humor. Record what was not a cave-in. The other men began whispering. Don't. Tell him. Ray sent him. Ray lies. Ray stayed up. The bearded man closed his eyes. It wasn't a cave-in, he said. The logbook wrote the words by itself. It wasn't a cave-in, he continued. We were blasting deeper than the permits allowed. Night shift. Company wanted a new vein opened before inspection. Shaft 6 hit a pocket under the limestone. What kind of pocket? I asked before I could stop myself. The men went silent. The bearded man stared at me. An old one. The cage creaked. Something deep below knocked. Once, the bearded man spoke faster. There was a hollow down there, big as a church, walls smooth as bone, water at the bottom reflecting daylight, though it was 2 a.m. My skin went cold. We saw men standing in it, wearing our hats, our faces, waving us down. Some of the crew thought it was gas. Some thought they were seeing souls. What was it? The bearded man leaned closer to the bars. The Quarry looking up. The logbook wrote, the Quarry looked up. He swallowed. We tried to seal it. Foreman ordered charges placed. Ray was topside running cable. Hollis was on water pump. Then the singing started. Behind him, the other men began humming. Low, tired. The bearded man snapped. Quiet! They stopped. The company report said collapse, but the shaft didn't fall in. The men behind him whispered together. It opened. The logbook wrote, Shaft 6 opened. The elevator lights flickered, though there were no bulbs. The bearded man looked past me at the chamber door. "You need Ray's statement." "Ray's alive." The bearded man gave me that same pitying look. "Part of him." My stomach tightened. "What does that mean?" "It means he stayed above, and that's its own kind of below." The cage began descending. Slowly, the men gripped the bars. "No," one whispered. "Not yet." The bearded man shoved his arm through the gate and grabbed the logbook. His fingers were cold and dry. "Record Hollis," he said. "The man at the scale?" His eyes sharpened. "Don't give him water, but don't deny what he did." "What did he do?" The cage dropped another foot. The bearded man's hand slipped down the book. "He shut off the pump." The logbook wrote, "Hollis shut off the pump." The men screamed, the cage plunged. The bearded man vanished into darkness with them. For a long moment, only the cable swayed. Then a voice came from the bottom of the shaft. Ray's voice. "Marcus," I stepped back. "Marcus, listen carefully. Close the book." I almost did. Then I saw the logbook writing one more line by itself. "Ray Garrison, cut the cable." The chamber went cold. Ray's voice from the shaft said, "That isn't true." The logbook wrote again. "Ray Garrison, cut the cable." Ray's voice became sharper. "Close the book." The elevator cage began rising again, empty this time. When it reached floor level, the gate opened. Inside, on the wooden floor, lay Ray's yellow hard hat. Black hollow logo on the front. Blood on the brim. The radio crackled on my belt. Ray's voice came through from it too. "Do not get in the cage." The voice from the shaft said the same thing at the same time. "Do not get in the cage." One of them was real. Or both were, or neither. The logbook page turned by itself. A new instruction appeared. "Place the logbook in the cage to dispute claim." Ray's voice on the radio shouted, "No!" The voice from the shaft whispered, "Yes." I looked at the cage, at the shaft below, at the logbook. If I put the logbook inside, maybe I'd stop being claimed. Or maybe I'd hand the Quarry the only record keeping me alive. The old rules came back to me. Do not leave blank lines in the log. The Watchman must record the shift. Ray had said the Quarry weighs what it can reflect. The logbook had written truth, but it had also written bait. I tore out the page, not the whole book, just the page with the statements. It wasn't a cave-in. The Quarry looked up. Shaft 6 opened. Hollis shut off the pump. Ray Garrison cut the cable. The chamber shook. The cage rattled. Both Rays screamed at once. I placed only the torn page in the elevator cage. The gate slammed shut. The cage dropped. The cable screamed. The page fluttered inside it like a trapped bird. The cage vanished down the shaft. Silence. Then, from far below, something read aloud in my voice. Ray Garrison cut the cable. The entire Quarry answered. A deep crack split the shaft wall. Dust poured from the ceiling. The logbook in my hand slammed shut so hard it nearly broke my fingers. The radio burst with static. Then Ray's real voice spoke, not from the shaft, not from the radio, from behind me. I told you I left things out. I turned. Ray stood in the doorway of the lift house. Real Ray. Older, pale, holding a shotgun he apparently didn't give to night watchman. His yellow hard hat had the black hollow logo. His milky eye reflected my flashlight. You need to come with me, he said. I backed away. What happened at shaft 6? He flinched. Not now. What happened? The shaft below us rumbled. Ray looked toward it, terrified. I cut the cable, he said. The logbook grew warm. But not to kill them. To keep what came up from riding out. The elevator cable snapped. The sound was like a giant violin string breaking underground. Ray grabbed me by the jacket and yanked me through the lift house door just as something shot up the shaft. Not the cage, not the men. Daylight. A column of bright golden daylight blasted out of the old shaft and struck the ceiling. In that light, I saw the quarry pit reflected upside down, the water at the bottom, the 12 men standing on it, my duplicate patrol truck, my own face, and something behind all of them, pale and huge and patient, wearing the quarry walls like a mouth. Ray slammed the door shut. The daylight leaked through the cracks around it. "Run," he said. We ran down the tunnel as the shaft behind us began to sing. This time, I could hear every word. "We all go down together." Ray shouted, "Don't write it! I'm not!" The tunnel shook. Limestone dust fell like snow. We reached the split in the rail line, left to the pump room, right back toward maintenance. Ray turned left. I grabbed his arm. "Wrong way." "No," he said. "Only way." "Why?" He looked at his watch. 2:31 a.m., 9 minutes until Rule 15. At 2:40 a.m., do not look toward the pit. Ray's face was grim. Because at 2:40, the pit looks back at everything above it. If we're not below it by then, it keeps your face. I thought of my duplicate in the truck. It already has my face. Ray shook his head. No, it borrowed your face. The tunnel behind us filled with daylight. Ray raised the shotgun. If it keeps it, you'll be the one borrowing. If it keeps it, Ray said, you'll be the one borrowing. The tunnel behind us filled with daylight, not sunlight, daylight. That sounds like a small difference until you see it underground. Sunlight has direction. It comes from somewhere. It has warmth and dust and angle. This light came from below. It poured through the old mine tunnel like a bright liquid, spilling over the rail tracks, climbing the limestone walls, turning every wet patch into a mirror. It made the rusted pipes shine. It made the dust sparkle. It made the whole underground passage look like morning had drowned and started floating up from the dark. Ray grabbed my jacket and dragged me left toward the pump room. I stumbled after him. Behind us, the tunnel sang. We all go down together. The words were clear now. Too clear. Men's voices, low and tired, repeating the line in perfect rhythm. We all go down together. We all go down together. Ray shoved me forward. Don't listen to the tune. That's not on the rules. It should be. The pump room door was ahead, half buried in old lime dust. A metal sign hung crooked from one screw. Pump Station 2. Authorized crew. Only Ray kicked the bottom of the door. It didn't move. He shouldered it once, twice. The third hit burst it open. The room inside was larger than I expected. Old pumps lined the walls, huge rusted machines with thick pipes running down through the floor and up into the ceiling. Chains hung from beams. A control panel sat dead in the corner. The air was wet, hot, and sour with standing water. There was water on the floor. Only a few inches, but it reflected daylight. I looked away immediately. Ray saw me do it. Good. He slammed the door behind us and shoved a metal bar through the handle. The singing became muffled, not gone, never gone, just farther away. He checked his watch. 2:36 a.m., 4 minutes until Rule 15. At 2:40 a.m., do not look toward the pit. We were underground now, but I didn't trust that rule to care. Ray moved to the old control panel and opened it with a key from his pocket. You said we needed to be below the pit, I said. We are. Why? Because at 2:40, everything above ground reflects down. The pit water, truck windows, office glass, mirrors, puddles, polished metal. Anything that can hold an image becomes part of it. Part of what? Ray pulled a lever. Nothing happened. He cursed and moved to another panel. The looking. I hated that answer. The pump room lights flickered, though there shouldn't have been power to them. The water around my boots trembled. My reflection appeared on the surface. I looked up fast, too late. For half a second, I saw my face in the water. Only it wasn't my face anymore. It was the duplicate's, white with dust, smiling. Ray grabbed my chin and forced my head toward the ceiling. Do not look down unless you want to see who's driving you home. I squeezed my eyes shut. The pumps groaned. One of them tried to start. A belt squealed, then snapped. Ray kicked the machine. Come on. What are you doing? Starting the old pump. Why? Because Hollis shut it off. The logbook line came back to me. Hollis shut off the pump. You said don't give Hollis water. I said don't give him water if he asks for it. That's not the same thing? No. Ray pulled another lever. This one moved with a wet metallic clunk. Somewhere beneath us, a pump coughed. Once, twice, then died. Ray leaned against the panel, breathing hard. He shut it off to save them, he said. The men below? No, the men above. I opened my eyes carefully, keeping them on Ray's face. He looked older than he had an hour ago. His beard was streaked with white dust. Sweat cut clean lines down his skin. His milky eye reflected the dim light in a way that made it look like limestone. He glanced at his watch. 2:38. The hollow under shaft 6 had water in it, he said. Not groundwater, not rain, something else. It reflected things that weren't there yet. When the drills broke through, the men below saw themselves standing on the water. My duplicate, Ray nodded. They thought it was gas at first. Then one of them dropped a lantern. It hit the surface and didn't sink. The reflection picked it up. I didn't understand. Then I did. The lantern lights, the ones on the upper bench. After that, Ray said, everything started copying wrong. Voices on the line, men answering before they were called, tools going missing before anyone touched them. Hollis saw his own hand reach from the wash bucket and pull him face first into the water. I swallowed. What was it? Ray stared at the pump. The Quarry. That doesn't mean anything. Yes, it does. You just don't like it. The pump coughed again. Ray slammed his palm against the panel. Black Hollow was dug too deep, too long, too hungry. You take enough from a place, eventually you make a mouth. The water around my boots rippled. The singing outside the door stopped. That was worse. Ray looked at the door. Time. The blasting siren sounded above us. Once, muffled by stone, then twice. Ray grabbed my shoulder. Down. We both dropped flat onto the wet floor. I kept my face turned sideways, eyes shut, hands over my ears. The water soaked through my jacket instantly. Cold. Wrong. I could feel it trying to show me things against my closed eyelids. The office trailer, the scale house, the pit water reflecting morning, my duplicate sitting in the patrol truck, my brother's basement, my sister-in-law sighing at the fridge, my car parked outside the Quarry gate. The life I could still go back to if I just stood up and looked. The third siren sounded. The pump room shook. Ray shouted something I couldn't hear. Then came the silence. The terrible silence after the third blast. My ears rang under my hands. The water beneath us became still, perfectly still. I knew it was reflecting us. I could feel my own face under me, waiting. The fourth siren did not sound. Something knocked on the pump room door. Tap, tap, tap. Ray mouthed a word. No, the knock came again. Then a voice spoke from outside. My voice. Ray cut the cable. Ray closed his eyes. The voice repeated louder. Ray cut the cable. The pump room walls groaned. Another voice joined. Hollis. He cut the cable. Then the 12 men. He cut the cable. The water around us began vibrating with their words. Ray looked at me. His expression was not angry, not defensive, just tired. I did, he whispered. The pump coughed again. Below the floor, something tried to turn. Ray crawled toward the control panel, keeping his face above the water. I crawled after him. The voice outside the door became the duplicate me again. Ask him why he waited. Ray froze. The question hung in the wet air. Ask him, my voice said. Ask him why he didn't cut it right away. I looked at Ray. His jaw tightened. The pump room door bowed inward. Something hit it from the other side. Once, then again. The bar across the handle bent. Ray reached the panel and grabbed a final switch covered by a rusted safety guard. His hand hovered over it. This will flood the lower works, he said. Will that kill them? He looked at me. They're already dead. That's not what I asked. The door buckled harder. White dust poured through the cracks. My duplicate spoke gently from outside. He didn't cut the cable to trap what came up, not at first. Ray squeezed his eyes shut. The duplicate continued. He cut it because the men were screaming, and he was scared. Ray slammed his fist into the panel. Yes! The pump room went silent. Even the door stopped shaking. Ray turned toward me. I was 26, he said. There was daylight coming out of the shaft at 2 a.m. Men screaming below, men screaming above. The foreman was gone. Hollis was burned half to death. The cage was coming up full of men who sounded like my friends, but had their faces wrong. His voice cracked. So I cut the cable. He swallowed hard. The first time, I cut it because I was afraid. The water on the floor rippled outward. The logbook, tucked under my jacket, grew hot against my ribs. Ray looked at it. Write it. What? Write the truth. I pulled the logbook free with shaking hands. It was soaked, but the pages were dry. Of course they were. I opened to a blank line. The pen was still clipped to the spine. I wrote, Ray Garrison cut the cable because he was afraid. The door outside exploded with pounding. Ray pointed to the page. Keep going. What else? He laughed bitterly. That I did it again. I stared at him. What? The first cut dropped the cage. Killed whoever was still human. Or finished it. I don't know. But later, when the company sent a recovery team, the cable had been replaced. By who? Ray looked toward the floor. By the quarry. The pump beneath us began turning slowly, a heavy, reluctant churn. Ray continued. The cage came up empty the next night, clean cable, working lift. Foreman told us recovery could start by morning. I knew better. I cut the second cable before anyone got in. I wrote, Ray Garrison cut the cable a second time to keep the shaft closed. The water around us darkened. Not black, normal dark. The daylight reflection weakened. Ray leaned close. Now Hollis. I heard footsteps outside the door. Slow, heavy. Hollis's cracked voice spoke from the other side. Water. Ray's face tightened. Write that Hollis shut off the pump because the water was climbing. I wrote. Hollis shut off the pump because the water was climbing out. Hollis moaned outside the door. Not angry, grieving. Ray said, Write that he burned because he held the valve shut, I wrote. Hollis burned, holding the valve shut. The pump roared, not fully alive, but turning now. Water rushed somewhere below us. The level around my boots began to drop. The door cracked open. A white hand reached through. Hollis. His skin was split and red beneath lime dust. His fingers trembled against the metal. Water, he whispered. Ray looked at me. Now you can answer. What? The rule says if he asks for water, tell him the wash station is closed. He isn't asking for himself now. I didn't understand. Hollis's hand opened. Inside his palm was a small metal tag. An old locker tag. No, not locker. A badge. Watchman. The number on it was 6. Shaft 6. Ray whispered, "Tell him where the water is." I looked at Hollis's burned hand, then at the logbook, then at the pump, finally roaring steady beneath us. "The pump is open," I said. Hollis went still. "The water is going down." For a moment, nothing happened. Then Hollis let out a sound so painful I almost covered my ears. Not a scream, a sob. His hand dropped the tag into the pump room. Then it withdrew. The door stopped cracking. The white dust blowing through the gaps settled. Ray exhaled. The 4th siren sounded, late but real. The pump room lights flickered on, dim yellow bulbs humming overhead. The water on the floor drained through grates I hadn't seen before. Ray stood slowly. He looked like he might collapse. "Is that it?" I asked. He shook his head. "No, that's the dispute." "What's left?" "The claim." The pump room door opened by itself. Outside, the tunnel was dark again. No daylight, no singing, no duplicate, just a tunnel. That should have made me feel better. It didn't. Ray picked up the metal Watchman tag from the floor and handed it to me. It was heavy, cold. The number 6 was stamped deep into the metal. "What is this?" "First night watchman's badge." "Why did Hollis have it?" "Because the first watchman ran." I turned the tag over. On the back, scratched by something sharp, were 3 words. "Owes 1 shift." Ray said, "Black Hollow doesn't let night watchmen quit clean." I almost laughed. "You're telling me this now?" "You wouldn't have believed me earlier." "I don't believe you now." "Good. Belief doesn't help much." We moved through the tunnel toward the maintenance hatch. The pump roared behind us, draining water from places no map admitted existed. Halfway back, the radio on my belt crackled again. This time, the voice was not Ray's. Not mine, not Hollis. It was a woman. Old. Tired. "Watchman, status?" Ray froze. "Who is that?" I whispered. He did not answer. The voice repeated. "Watchman, status?" Ray's face went pale under the dust. "My mother," he said. I remembered Rule 8. If the radio says all clear in your voice, remove the battery. It was not my voice now. The battery was still removed. The radio should not have worked at all. The voice crackled again. "Raymond, answer me." Ray's hand tightened on the shotgun. "She died before shaft 6, he whispered. "Then don't answer." His jaw clenched. The tunnel lights flickered. The voice became softer. "You were just a boy." Ray closed his eyes. "No, I wasn't. You were scared. Yes. It wasn't your fault." Ray took 1 step toward the radio sound. I grabbed his sleeve. "Ray." The voice on the radio changed. It became mine. "Let him go." I ripped the radio from my belt and threw it down the tunnel. It hit the wall and shattered. The voice stopped. Ray stared at the broken pieces. Then he looked at me. "Good." We reached the ladder beneath the maintenance shed. Ray climbed first. I followed. The hatch opened into the shed, which was empty now. No thing from the locker, no white dust except what had always been there. The clock on the wall read 3:12 a.m. Outside, the quarry was quiet, not safe, quiet. Ray opened the shed door slowly. The patrol truck was parked outside, my real truck, or what looked like it. The duplicate truck was gone. Ray stepped out and circled it once, careful not to look in the mirrors. "Keys," he said. I handed them over. He opened the driver's side door and reached in without looking at the rearview mirror. Then he ripped it off with one hard pull. He did the same to both side mirrors. "What are you doing?" Making it harder for the quarry to drive. Then he looked at me. "You're taking the truck to the scale." "Why?" "Because it weighed 0 earlier." "That was the old dump truck." "No," Ray said. "That was the warning. Yours hasn't been weighed proper yet." I looked toward the scale house. The bell hung still. The platform scale waited in the dark. I did not want to go there. Ray handed me the keys. "Drive slow, eyes forward. Do not look into the pit. Do not look into the windows. Do not look at anything that looks back." "What are you doing?" "Walking." "Why?" He tapped his milky eye. "I've already been weighed." That was not an answer I liked. I got into the truck. Without mirrors, the cab felt wrong. Safer, maybe, but wrong. The empty spaces where the mirrors had been looked like fresh wounds. Ray walked ahead with the shotgun. I drove behind him at a crawl. The road to the scale passed the office trailer. It was still bent around the drill bit, but the lights were on inside. Through the broken window, I saw someone sitting at the desk. Me. The duplicate had taken my chair. He wrote in the logbook. But the logbook was with me. I looked away. Too late, he raised his head, smiled, then held up the page he had been writing. Even from the truck, I could read the line. Marcus Bell, completed shift. I slammed on the brakes. Ray turned. "Don't stop!" The duplicate in the office stood. The office door opened. White footprints appeared on the step. I hit the gas. Ray jogged to keep up. We reached the scale platform. "On it!" Ray shouted. I drove the truck onto the scale. The engine sputtered. The dashboard lights flickered. The scale house display blinked awake. For a few seconds, it showed nothing. Then numbers spun wildly. 8,000 pounds, 3,200 pounds, 12,600 pounds, 0 pounds. The truck engine died. Rule 14. If the scale weighs your truck as 0, turn off the engine and wait 10 minutes before moving. The engine was already off. I looked at Ray. He stood beside the scale house, shotgun ready. "Wait," he said. So I waited. The display held at 0. The cab grew cold. The steering wheel turned under my hands. Not much, just slightly, like someone else had touched it. From the passenger seat came my duplicate's voice. "You're empty because you don't belong anywhere." I did not look. "You were empty before you got here." The seat creaked. He was there. I knew it. White dust smell filled the cab. "Brother doesn't want you," he whispered. "Sister-in-law doesn't want you. Job barely wants you. Quarry does." I stared at the scale house display. 0 pounds. He leaned closer. "Stay, work the shift, drive the loop, log the quiet. It's better than leaving." My hands trembled on the wheel. He wasn't wrong in the places where lies work best. That was the trick. He didn't say I was loved elsewhere. He didn't promise happiness. He only offered usefulness. Even a terrible place can tempt you if it makes you feel needed. The passenger door opened. Ray stood there, eyes carefully turned away from the seat. "Out." "It hasn't been 10 minutes. "Yes, it has." I looked at the clock. 3:24. Impossible. 10 minutes had passed. I climbed out. The passenger seat was empty, covered in white dust. The scale display flickered. 0 pounds. Then, unknown load. Ray handed me the Watchman tag. Put it on the scale. I placed the old metal tag on the platform. The scale display changed. 1 pound. Then, shift owed. Ray looked at the quarry pit. Now the truth. He took the logbook from me and opened it on the scale platform. The pages fluttered, though there was no wind. "What are you doing?" I asked, finishing the report I should have written in 1974. He wrote slowly. Ray Garrison cut the cable because he was afraid. Ray Garrison cut the cable again to keep shaft 6 closed. Hollis shut off the pump because the water was climbing out. Hollis burned holding the valve shut. The night crew did not die in a cave-in. Black Hollow opened beneath them. The company buried the truth. The quarry kept the debt. The scale display flickered with each line. Unknown load, historical load, unrecorded load. Then Ray handed me the pen. "Your line." "What do I write?" "What you saw." I looked toward the pit, but not at it. Not directly. I looked at the gravel near my boots, at the white dust, at the broken mirrors in the truck. Then I wrote, "The watchman saw his own face and refused to follow it down. The scale house bell rang once. The display went black. Then it came back. Truck, 7,840 pounds. Watchman, present claim, disputed." Ray exhaled. "Now we leave." We almost made it. That is the part that still bothers me. We were 50 feet from the main gate when the old dump truck appeared across the exit road. Black cab, rusty bed, no headlights. Hollis stood beside it, burned, white with dust. But different now, less bent, less angry. Behind him stood the 12 men from the elevator cage. The bearded man at the front removed his blank hard hat. The others did the same. Ray stopped walking. I stopped beside him. The gate was behind them. The bearded man looked at Ray. "For the record," he said. Ray's face crumpled. He knew what they wanted. I did too. The logbook. Ray held it out. The bearded man did not take it. "No," he said. "Not the book." Ray looked confused. The bearded man pointed at Ray's hard hat, the Black Hollow logo. Ray removed it slowly. Underneath, his gray hair was damp with sweat. The bearded man said, "You stayed up top long enough," Ray whispered. "I know." I stepped forward. "No." Ray didn't look at me. "Marcus." "No, we disputed the claim." "Yours." I stared at him. He finally looked at me. His good eye was tired. His milky eye reflected daylight from the pit. "I told you, I've already been weighed." The old dump truck's tailgate dropped, empty, waiting. Hollis stepped aside. Ray handed me the logbook. "You make it to Sunrise. Give that to the state inspector. Ray, if you can't, burn it before the quarry takes your hand. I'm not leaving you." He smiled faintly. "That's how night watchmen get killed." The bearded man held out Ray's hard hat. Not blank now, the logo peeled away by itself. Underneath was stamped, Shaft 6. Ray took it, put it on. The quarry blasting siren sounded once, soft, almost gentle. Ray looked at me one last time. "What happened at Shaft 6? He asked. I swallowed hard. "It wasn't a cave-in." He nodded. "Good." Then he climbed into the back of the dump truck. Hollis climbed in after him. Then the 12 men. The bearded man closed the tailgate. The truck engine started. It drove toward the pit. No headlights, no dust, no sound except gravel under tires. At the edge of the lower road, it stopped. For a second, I thought it would turn. Instead, it drove straight over the berm and down into the pit. Not falling, driving. Along a road that wasn't there. Down the limestone wall. Down through impossible daylight. Down until the truck reached the black water at the bottom. This time, the water did not reflect morning. It reflected nothing. The dump truck rolled onto the surface and slowly sank. The last thing I saw was Ray's hard hat floating for 1 second on the black water. Then it went under. The quarry became silent. The main gate unlocked itself. I ran. I didn't take the patrol truck. I didn't take my car at first. I ran through the gate and down the access road until my lungs burned and the eastern sky started turning gray. Only when I heard birds did I stop. Real birds, morning birds, not sirens, not singing, not bells. I walked back after sunrise. That might sound insane, maybe it was, but my car was still there, so was the quarry. Black Hollow looked normal in daylight. The office trailer was not collapsed. The drill bit was gone. The scale house display was off. The old kilns were cold. The maintenance shed was locked. There were 3 working trucks in the yard. Only 3. No Ray. No dump truck. No white footprints. No duplicate patrol vehicle. At the bottom of the pit, the water was black. I did not look at it long. The logbook was still under my arm. The Watchman tag was in my pocket. Owes 1 shift. Only now, the back had changed. Shift paid. The company called me at 7:12 a.m. A woman from corporate asked why Ray Garrison had not checked in. I told her I didn't know. That was true enough. She asked if there had been any incidents overnight. I looked at the logbook, at the pages full of things no insurance form would accept. Then I said, "Yes." There was a long pause. "What kind of incidents?" "The kind that need a state inspector." She laughed nervously. I did not. 3 weeks later, Black Hollow Quarry was temporarily shut down for safety violations. That was the official reason. Improper records, unstable old works, unreported underground shafts, historical blasting irregularities. The logbook disappeared into evidence. So did the old maps. So did the Watchman tag, though the inspector told me later they never logged receiving it. He asked me where Ray Garrison was. I told him the last true thing I knew. Below. They searched the quarry for 5 days. No body, no truck, no sign of a collapse. At the edge of the pit, near the upper bench road, they found 14 hard hats lined in a row. 13 blank. One with the Black Hollow logo peeled away. The company permanently closed the site 2 months later. At least, that's what the newspaper said. But places like Black Hollow don't really close. They stop being businesses. That's different. I got another job eventually. Day shift, warehouse again, normal lights, normal floors, normal managers who complained about inventory and overtime instead of telling me not to answer dead men at scale houses. For a while, I slept fine. Then winter came. Cold nights, early darkness, road salt on pavement, looking too much like limestone dust. One evening, I came home and found white footprints leading from my apartment door to my kitchen table. Small, bare feet. They faded while I watched. On the table sat a laminated sheet. Not the old one. A new one. At the top, in Ray's handwriting, were the words, "Black Hollow Closure. Rules for former watchmen do not ignore. Just because you left, there were only 3 rules. Rule 1, if you hear the scale house bell in a place with no scale, do not ask what is being weighed. Rule 2, if your reflection is dusty, turn off the light and wait for morning. Rule 3, if someone asks what happened at shaft 6, tell the truth. I keep that sheet folded in my wallet. I've had to use Rule 2 twice. once in a gas station bathroom mirror outside Altoona, once in the dark window of my brother's basement. Both times I turned off the light. Both times something on the other side of the reflection kept smiling after I disappeared. And last week I heard the bell, clear, metallic, one ring. I was standing in a grocery store parking lot. No scale house, no quarry, no reason for that sound. Everyone else kept walking like they hadn't heard it. Then my phone rang, unknown number. I knew better than to answer. It rang again and again. Finally, a voicemail appeared. I played it in my car with the interior lights off and every mirror turned away. At first, there was only static. Then Ray's voice, tired, far away. Marcus, a long pause. Then, they're digging again. The message ended. I drove past Black Hollow the next morning. The gate was chained. The company sign was gone. Weeds grew through the access road. No trucks, no office lights, no workers, no sound. But beyond the gate, in the white dust near the road, someone had written a line with a finger. We all go down together. I didn't write it down. I didn't take a picture. I didn't speak it aloud. I got back in my car and drove away before the wind could finish covering it. Because if there is one thing I learned as the night watchman at Black Hollow Limestone, it's this. Some places don't want to be abandoned. Some places don't want to be remembered. Some places want records, logs, names, weights, claims. And if you ever get hired for a night shift at a quarry and the old supervisor hands you a list of rules, don't laugh, don't improvise, don't leave blank lines. And whatever you do, if the pit water reflects daylight after midnight, look away. Because something under the stone has been looking up for a very long time. And it already knows what your face looks like.